Hi, this is Brian with Prophetless Media and Post. Today is going to be a quick tip tutorial on moving the pivot point of a mask. I did a video on this several years ago and there's been plenty of confusion and it wasn't that clear, so I thought I'd update the video and try to make it a little bit more clear. There's several different methods depending on what you need to do. The B-spline and the polygon tools are going to work a little different than the predefined shapes like the ellipse and the rectangle. So let's take a look at the polygon first. So with the polygon, one thing we can do, depending on what you need to do, we can move the pivot point temporarily by using keyboard shortcuts. And so let's take a look at that real quick. So the way this works is we select all of the points that we want, and then using the keyboard shortcut T for rotation, holding down the letter T, no matter where I click, it's going to rotate from that point. So this is a quick way to move your pivot point. So I'm holding down T, I can pivot from there, and then say I want to pivot from here, I can click here, still holding down T, and I can quickly move my pivot point around to wherever I need it. Another keyboard shortcut is S for scale. So holding down S, and wherever I click is going to scale from that point. So if I click here, you can see I can scale from there, and then I can quickly move over here and scale. So this is a great way to quickly move the pivot point depending on what you need to do. Another keyboard shortcut is X. So holding down X will only scale in X. So if I click here, say right here, you can see I'm scaling in X only. And if I go over here, scale from X from over here. And Y, if I hold down Y, it'll only scale in Y. If I click here, you can see I scale just in Y, no matter where I click. So if I click here, it's going to scale in Y. The last one is O, and if I hit O, no matter where I click, it's going to scale from the center of the object. So if I click O and I click anywhere on the screen, it's going to scale from the center of the actual object. Okay. Now this also works with just selected points. So if I wanted to maybe just move the top of this, I like where this is, but I want to move the top, you can use the same keyboard shortcuts. So if I hit T, I can rotate just from here, and then I can come over here and then rotate from here, holding down T. Same thing with scale, S. No matter where I click, it's going to scale from there. If I click down O, it's going to still use the center of the object. So if I hit O, you can see that it's scaling towards the center of the object. Okay, and the X and the Y work the same way too. Holding down X, it's only going to scale in X. If I hold down Y, it's only going to scale in Y, based on wherever I click. So that's a great way to move your pivot point if you don't need it to be in the same position all the time and you want to move it around very quickly. Keyboard shortcuts are the way to go. Another method is to actually move the center point, and some people have had a problem with this. I haven't had a problem with this. If this doesn't work for you, don't worry about it. I'm going to show you another method. And that is to, if we click, make sure you're in the viewer, selecting in the viewer. Holding down M, you can grab the center point and actually move it. You have to keep M held down, and then we can move our center point to our object, and then now our pivot point is moved to wherever we want. Now, depending on what you're doing, it may or may not be what you need to do, because that is actually moving the center point. So if you were adding tracking and stuff like that, that might mess it up. Anyway, let me show you the other method, which is definitely tried and true, and that's the way I've worked for years, and that is just using a transform. So this method works on all four of these types of shapes, but the methods we just previously talked about do not work on the ellipse and rectangle. So let's take a look at the ellipse. So if we want to move the pivot point for these, we're going to need to use a transform. So let's add in a transform. And when we add in that transform, make sure that it's not in the effects. We want it to be in the transform input, the yellow input. And inside the transform, we can move our pivot point wherever we want. To grab the pivot point, which is this green X behind the center point, can be pretty tricky. Now, you'd be tempted to come over here to the pivot and just kind of pull it off to the side a little bit, and then you can grab your pivot point and then move it wherever you want. But you can also, if I click off this, let's hit the transform. Another way to do it is making sure that you're selected in the viewer. You can use the tab key. So if I hit tab, you're going to cycle through all the different controls. So now I'm on the outside. Hit tab again, I got the rotation. Hit tab one more time, and now I actually have my pivot selected. You can see that it's a red X, and I can just click and grab that. And now I can move it over. So this might be a little bit easier, and now my pivot point is wherever I want it to be. So that's a bunch of different tips on how you can move your pivot point. If you have any questions or problems, leave a comment below, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you again in the next video.